Hello. In this video, we're going to be looking at how to switch visualizations in CODESYS using frames. So as always, as we have done for the past videos, we're going to start with our training project 1. And in previous videos, we've looked at how to create multiple visualizations and switch through those visualizations usually using a push button. So there are certain advantages or disadvantages to that method. Frames can provide you essentially allow you to show a screen or part of a screen on one visualization. I think this will make more sense when we start to look at it. The other benefit to potentially using frames is we've heard from several customers that occasionally using frames to switch visualizations is faster than switching them in the way that we originally did by just creating a visualization and switching between them. If you use frames, we have heard that it is occasionally somewhat faster. Now, I personally have not experienced this, but I guess it depends on how big your project is. I would recommend that if you've implemented it in the way that we originally did here, so you can see what we've done in our previous videos, is create a user interface. We have a push button that goes to page 2, and on page 2 we have this, and this goes to page 1, and we can see here this push button on mouse clicked is using a method here called change shown visualization to screen 1. So this is how we've implemented it in the previous video. If you haven't watched that one, please go check out the video about creating multiple visualizations. That's where it's covered. So I would say if you've implemented it in this way and you notice that switching between screens is slow, then it may be worth a try to do it with frames instead. And that's kind of what we're going to go over in this video. Okay, so what we can do with frames is, I'm not going to really go too much into what we have in the rest of our project. We've built this up over several training videos. In short, we have a CAN bus, we have our programming interface here, and our visualizations here. For the purpose of this video, we're just primarily focusing on visualizations. We're not going to be doing anything with the CAN bus or programming. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to remove some of these components. Or let's create a new visualization. So we're going to right click application, and as we've done in the past, come and say add object, and at the bottom here, visualization. And it's named visualization. We can call it visualization underscore frame if we want. Okay, so this is now added. So if we want to, the first thing we need to do is add a frame to this. So we can come into basic here. So we're going to drag in this frame, and you'll notice here that we also have it picks up our screen 1 and screen 2. So we can actually add, so it makes sense for one that you can only add visualizations to a frame that are not on the visualization that you're currently adding your frame to. So the reason that visualization frame is not showing up here is because it wouldn't make sense to have a frame show itself. So we only have to choose from our other two visualizations, so screen 1 and screen 2. So we can add those two visualizations to our frame. and that will allow our frame to show them and move between them. So here we go. So we're going to hit OK. And you'll notice now that the frame expands to the size of our visualization 1. So our screen 1 is 250. Oops. Is, let's see. If we go into properties, visualization 1024 by 768, and this one I believe is the same, but yes. So we can expand the size of our frame here, showing it. So what you can do is I could make this screen a bit smaller here, and then say create a static menu system or something on the top and bottom. So sometimes you may want to have a logo up on the top that's always going to stay there for each screen that you're on. So you can add an image or a label up here, for instance. Oops. I don't know why we switched that. So this could be your company name, for instance, and maybe we'll have a rectangle with a certain color. I'm just doing this very quickly so it's not anything nice, but we can move it to the back. So there we go. We might have, something like this where we have a banner up here with our company name and something similar on this side where we'd have like a menu system, potentially some icons that can move from page to page. So our frame then would only sit here, and this would be the only part of our visualization that changes. So both of these sides are static and our frame changes. So this is a useful component of frames outside of the fact that they are potentially faster to switch screens with, that you can do this sort of mechanism. Okay, so let's look at, so now we have a frame added here with two visualizations. So if we right click our frame and say frame select, we can see screen 1 and screen 2 are added here. Screen 1's the default as it's on top, but you can, for instance, move up screen 2 and then that becomes the default. Let's make screen 1 the default though. So right now, if we click this push button on screen 1, it'll move completely to screen 2, which we don't want. We want it to move inside the frame, and I think we'll be able to see this. So right now we can see we're in simulation mode. So if you don't know how to put things in simulation mode, there's another video on that, but essentially just make sure the simulation is checked in your online menu and you can say log in. So we're going to simulate this on our computer and just see what happens. So, right, I think I already know a problem here. So if we go screen 2, you see how this moved now completely from our visualization frame to our screen 2. Oh, that's not really what we want. So we have some weird things happening here, and that's because when on this screen 1, we set up our push button before to move completely to screen 2. So if we look at our push button here, so we go to screen 1, let's make this push button, instead of change shown visualization to screen 2, we are going to remove this and say switch frame visualization. Okay, so we're going to bring this in, and here in assign, we can say any visualization, and we pick a frame element. So visualization frame. So we can, so it brings up here, let me just make sure that's clear. So if we say assign, it's going to look for your frame elements in your project, and it shows that we only have one frame element currently in our project. If we had multiple, then we would show multiple frame elements here. But it's saying that we have a frame element on the visualization called visualization frame, which makes sense because that's what we named our visualization. So if we expand that, we can keep expanding until we get here, and then you can see this OK will light up. So we're going to select this. So like I said, if you have multiple elements, you can even have multiple frame elements on the same visualization, then both would show up here. If we had multiple visualizations with frame elements, then you would select the one that you want to move, essentially. So we're going to select the visualization frame visualization, and we only have one frame on that visualization currently. So we're going to select that one. And we can see it's called gen element, and you can see that here if we go to visualization frame, up here in the element name is gen element. So we could change this to like frame 1, how about? And now just to make it more clear. So when we go back to screen 1, let's do this again. So here we go. We're going to, for some reason it did not go with the element name. Let's see. There it just took a second to update. So now it shows on our visualization frame, we have a frame there called frame 1. We're going to select that. And to change pages, we need to select an index. So an easy way, we can come through and do it in this way, but the index is, if we look back at our frame, we have a zero-based index, like a lot of the elements that we've dealt with. So in this, we can look at the visualizations we've added, and we have screen 1 and screen 2. Screen 1 is going to be index 0. Screen 2 is going to be index 1. And if we continue to add visualizations, they will increase in index as you would imagine. So from screen 1, we want to move to screen 2, which would be index 1. So if we come back to screen 1, we select index 1 to move to. Okay, and in a similar fashion for screen 2, we're going to come here and say remove change shown visualization, say switch frame visualization. Again, select our frame. And here we're going to go back to index 0, which is screen 1. Okay, so this should work. We can build to just confirm that we haven't made any mistakes. So it looks like it's built. We still are in simulation mode as we see, and we're going to go online and say log in with download. Oh, you know what? I think I did one other thing wrong, that we should be putting the original or the first visualization shown should be visualization frame. I think we probably have it starting at screen 1. But regardless, if I go to visualization frame, you can see I'm switching now between our two screens. Here's screen 1, looks like that, screen 2, and using frames, I'm switching between the two here. So as a final change, like I said, our project, we added this new visualization, but we want this to be our main page. So when our project starts, we want it to start on this screen, not on screen 1. So we can come into our visualization manager. I believe it is under maybe target visualization. There we go. Target visualization, and it says start visualization. So it's set to screen 1. We want to make it visualization frame instead. Okay, so now I think we are fully complete. Let's test it out one last time. Log in with download. And we can hit that. And there we go. So I think if we were to deploy this on a display at this point, then it would come up with this screen first, and we would be able to switch between our screens. So I think that pretty much summarizes it. So we showed kind of here what you would do if you wanted to only have dynamic screens on a portion of your main screen. So obviously you could, for instance, have multiple frames showing multiple visualizations on one visualization. You know, at some point it will be very processor intensive, so you know, I would recommend not trying to show a lot of different visualizations at once, but it is possible. So it's really just up to you to test and see, you know, make sure the performance is as you expect. We talked about it at the beginning, how customers have reported in the past that sometimes using frames completely instead of moving between screens is faster. So the idea behind that's actually almost identical to what we've done. So instead of just using this frame as a portion of the screen, what we would do is just remove these elements and make this frame the entire screen, similar to this. So now it looks exactly like our screen 1 and screen 2. We just have our frame as the whole screen. So now if we were to do this and build, what we'd see is what looks exactly like if we were to move simply between screen 1 and screen 2, but really what's happening is we're on this visualization frame and it's moving between frames, or switching the visualization in the frame and not between visualizations completely. So again, I would say you can, it's up to you how you make your project. But if you are experiencing some slowness with moving from screen to screen, as we originally did, then you may want to try doing it with frames instead. And of course, if you wanted to implement, you know, a dynamic screen on only a portion of a main screen, like we showed at first, then frames are a great way to do it. Lastly, I'll just say, you know, you can, I showed 2 screens, but of course you're not limited to that. We could add another visualization. For instance, we'll call it screen 3 underscore There we go. So now screen 3 is added. If we come back to our frame here and right click, we can now see screen 3 here and add that. And the index would then be 0, 1, and 2. So if we wanted to switch to screen 3, we could come to screen 2, and even though our name is go to screen 1, you know, we can, so that's not going to make sense, but we can select our index to go to screen 3, which is right now completely blank, but you know, we can add a rectangle in this just so we know we're there. And in this way we can continue to add screens to our frames and visualizations, and it should work as expected. So this should now move to our new screen. And there we go. Okay, so that covers how to change your UI to use frames instead of switching from screen to screen, or just use frames to have only a portion of your visualization change between different visualizations you've set up here. So hopefully this is helpful. Thanks for watching.